call the meeting to order, Monday, March 24th, 6 p.m. Let the record reflect that all elected and appointed board members are present. And our student rep Bella Webb is here and Cameron is off volleyballing. That's a thing, right? Volleyballing?
Yeah, very technical.
Yes. Pledge allegiance, please.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. Do we have any changes or additions to the agenda?
Just one item to my report at the end, just to update the board and the community, that will start to announce the 2 snow makeup days. Typically, it's not a board approval item because we build the days into the schedule, but start to let the community and staff know that we've extended the calendar by 2 days to make up for those. We should be out of the danger zone for losing time for snow, though it's not impossible that could happen. But typically at the end of March is when we make that announcement, so the calendar will extend by 2 days.
And we were just discussing, is possible to move the SMS TSA conference overnight and the football to the a little earlier in the agenda for all the people that are here that might not want to stay that long.
Yes.
Do you need a motion for that?
I will as soon as I figure out where we want to move it to, because we could put it right before,
Do you want to put it right here?
I think even before.
Well, they're both the first 2 items in business.
Well, I was wondering if we could put them before Mike and Paul.
Oh, gotcha, yeah, okay.
Anybody have a problem with that?
Nope.
Okay, can I get a motion to approve the,
I make a motion to
Moving.
move business items 1 and 2 to presentations in between 3 and 4.
so moved, all in favor?
Aye.
All right, that way we can get that stuff done a little quicker. Student achievement, Stan?
Good evening, everyone. It is my pleasure to have the opportunity to recognize some of our students at each of our business board meetings at each school that are doing extraordinary things. And so we have, I think we have 3 kids and families that are joining us by YouTube. And then we have the good fortune of having Adaya here and her family. And so I will go ahead and start with Mr. Colton Reams. He's a 3rd grader at Gold Bar Elementary. And his teacher writes, ever since 1st grade, the student has continually expressed that he was going to be a Husky hero. Every day he would remind staff that when he gets to 3rd grade, he wanted to apply. In 1st grade and all through 2nd grade, he demonstrated our 3 Bs. Be safe, be responsible, be respectful, with pride. He showed perseverance by setting a good example in class, at recess, and in the hallways. He even wore a yellow recess vest at recess so he could practice being the playground patrol Husky. In the fall of this year, he approached our Husky Hero program lead every day at recess, asking when she was going to open up applications. He would reply, usually by the end of October. He enthusiastically let her know his birthday was October 27th, and he would really like to get the application by his birthday. Well, on October 28th, Monday, he was our very first Husky Hero to get an application and complete it, becoming the first new member to join the program for the year. He was also the first Husky Hero this year to be a playground patrol Husky with a radio to alert the office and staff of any concerns during recess. He's a fine example of what makes up a Husky Hero. Helping everyone respect others. That's what the hero stands for. Through his determination and dedication to providing a positive school community, we are proud that he is in our program. So good job, Colton Reams.
Yay.
So our next student who is doing extraordinary things is Adaya Varun. She's a 3rd grader at Sultan Elementary. And Adaya's teacher wrote, Adaya is a wonderful student and an excellent example of persistence. She sets high goals for herself, And through obstacles and challenges, she stays the course, never giving up. Adaya also encourages her fellow students to find their grit and keep going when things get tough. Great job, Adaya. We're proud of you. Good job.
Is she here?
Do you want to take a picture of her or anything here with the board?
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
How exciting photos.
Do we wanna get in front here?
This is fine, okay, just scooch in.
You guys gonna scooch in right here?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's okay. It's a little cramped back here.
Good job. Okay, our third student is Karen Bogan, sixth grade from SMS. I don't think she's here. You guys seen her here? You're probably on YouTube then. In class, Karen Bogan eagerly raises her hand, always ready with a thoughtful question that digs deeper into the lesson. She doesn't settle for just the basics. She pushes herself to explore every detail, making connections beyond what's in the textbook. Whether analyzing a piece of music in class or debating a historical event, her excitement for learning is contagious, inspiring those around her to be just as curious. Great job, Karen. We are very proud of you. At Fulton High School, we're here to recognize Bailey Gustafson, who is a sophomore in 10th grade. Bailey Gustafson was voted Sultan High School February Turk of the Month. She's kind, helpful, and responsible in class. She gets her work out and started without any reminders. Bailey had a great basketball season out there belonging and uniting. And in the classroom, she is enormously helpful to her classmates. She works extraordinarily hard to make sure that she understands concepts and content. She has stayed late, asking great questions, or looks up the resources to help her understand. Thank you for being a fantastic Turk. Great job, Bailey. We're proud of you.
Awesome, thank you. We have no response for previously asked questions because there were none last meeting. And you said, Kayla, no public comment this evening? No public comment. Consent agenda. Does anyone have any comments or questions on the consent agenda? No, if not, can I get a motion to approve consent agenda, please?
A motion to approve consent agenda.
So moved, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? All right. That one is done. Next, committee and association reports. I'm gonna be really quick. There are a couple pages in your packets that are from the Region 1 meeting that I just went to. This one, purposeful practices for effective and nonpartisan school board leadership. And then the other one is the Bellingham Promise. This is their strategic plan on one page. So I'm not gonna go into like a whole bunch on this, cause Isaac and I can talk about our upcoming conference, and I can throw that in there with that, but I just wanted you guys to have a couple of things that I got when I went last week on Monday to Bellingham. All right, student voice. Bella, you are up.
We have a long one, so first off, Turk of the Month was Bailey Gustafson, as you guys know, and Staff of the Month was Mr. Whitteman, very popular. For sports, this month we're doing pretty good. Baseball is going 1-5, and softball is going 1-2. But our hardest games are out of the way because they've been against 3A teams, so we're doing good. Boys and girls golf both had their first tournaments and did pretty well. Track and field have to meet this Saturday. As for ASB, FFA just had their pre-districts right before state, and Millie Brumley made it through the first 2 rounds, so she's an alternate for state. And HOSA had their state leadership conference, which was really good. 2 out of our 3 Anatomage teams made it, and they were actually first and second. So we're going to Vegas in May, and then I was reelected for Region 5 Vice President.
Yay!
And then nearly all 12 of our state participants placed in the top 10, so that was really cool. And we even had 2 place in the top 3, so they qualified for nationals, or internationals in Nashville. And as for just like ASB in general, we had our student leadership retreat with Sultan Elementary, which was really, really cool. So we basically had all of our like Sultan Elementary leaders come up, and then we just taught them basic things about leadership, how to make a spirit week, which is really fun. We made like a Disney themed one for them, and they're really excited about that. And we're gonna start it with Gold Bar in the middle school. So yeah, pretty good.
Awesome,
Thank you.
thank you. And are you doing your student rep retreat stuff now?
We could, yeah, sure. We did our student rep retreat with Kayla and Mr. Chaplick. Click. Yeah. So first we started with doing icebreakers. We basically just all got in a circle and you had to like rotate around. It was just like easy questions like, what do you do? What sports do you do? What activities do you do? Kind of just getting to know each other. We went over like some just like rules for the conference, or like don't be mean, raise your hand, basic rules. We did a discussion about what we thought a student rep should actually be, because there isn't actually any guidelines around that. It's kind of just like student rep. So no one actually really knows what that job entails. So we started making like a discussion of what actually is that, like what are some expectations of that, what should we be doing on the school board. We went over our vision, and this is basically just what we are. Like we made a big mission statement about what a student rep should be. Because you aren't just like a student just like sitting on the board. Like you have an actual job, you are the voice of your students. So we made a big old mission, you guys can see it up there. It went through a lot of like redos. Had to change it around a lot, it's pretty long. Last thoughts. Yeah, had lunch with the superintendents, pretty good. Brainstormed about what we felt was good. We went over at our first conference, we went over like small bite, meal, crock pot. Mr. Chaplick, there's 4 of them.
Small bite, meal, crock pot, feast, or
Snack.
something like that.
Snack.
Snack.
Yeah, so those are basically like different goals that you can set. So you can set like a small bite, which is like, oh, I wanna have nameplates, stuff like that. And we basically made just a big like map of what we actually wanna start doing. So we have a lot of goals that Cameron and I set, and we're really excited, so.
So this meeting, just to give a little more background, was in Anacortes on March 7th. And so the student reps all broke off. And so there were student reps from a bunch of different districts while superintendents had their quarterly meeting. And then we got together at the end. So it was really, and our kids did just wonderful. Really did well.
It was
We
really good.
appreciate you guys going.
Yeah, and then they said they wanted to do another one in September, so really excited for that. And we'll have a new student rep by then. It's so sad, but yeah, we set a lot of goals, so it was actually really fun. Got to meet a bunch of different student reps. It was really good.
Awesome,
Yeah.
thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. Community report, Dan, you wanna?
So, I think coming up 7th to 11th is, spring break. I have set some dates to have the new superintendent in the district and, work with the board on how to, work through that. Gonna just kind of attend meetings with me and do different things. I think some of the highlight that I start on Monday is kind of a carryover to what Bella just said, is that we start our student superintendent advisory council. So we'll go over different things to learn and understand, what things are important to the kids as far as learning, as far as, how they perceive the whole issue of our schools and how that works. And so excited for that. And I get to do my first day tomorrow for this year of working in the concession stand. And so I want to put a plug in for anybody that wants to volunteer to do that. It's a great way to meet people and I really enjoy it. So very soon I'll have a little more time on my hands to be able to do that. I promise.
Do that.
Yeah. What's that?
The sock hop,
Oh, sorry. Oh, yep. I didn't see what, so the Sultan Music Parent Sock Hop fundraiser is on the 28th. That's this Friday, 6 to 9 p.m. Gold Bar Easter Egg Hunt is April 19th. And that's kind of where we're at. Did you say something about softball?
No, I said the sock hop.
Oh, the sock hop, I'm sorry. Yep. And so that's 5 per person. Startup Event Center on Friday, March 28th, which is this Friday. So
Awesome.
I apologize, I didn't have this up on my screen.
That's okay. Thank you. All right, we're gonna do business item number 1 now, which is Sultan Middle School TSA Conference Overnight Travel.
Hello,
Hello.
I'm Kim Gilreath, the assistant principal at Sultan Middle School.
Amber Hoffman, I'm the chapter advisor for the high school TSA.
Sean Stern, co-advisor.
Oh, Weston not here, student unit.
Awesome, welcome.
All right, our state conference is coming up, and we just wanted to get it approved because it's an overnight. Actually, this year it's gonna be in Spokane instead of SeaTac. So they'll be spending multiple nights down there, and Amber's gonna tell you about it.
Yeah, so a little bit of background information, in case some of us don't know what TSA is about. One of the things that's really important about TSA is the ability to foster some 21st century skills that students don't necessarily learn implicitly in classrooms. And so things like leadership opportunities, making sure that students are managing their time. TSA is very student-led, so students are not only part of the TSA, but they're actually driving the whole thing. My part is more of an advisor, and so I'm there to help students problem solve, but the majority of the work that's done is done by the students. The adult involvement is actually very little. We're there to kind of help and to guide them and answer questions, but all of the achievements that the students have made both last year and this year as they're working toward going to state have been entirely on them. All of the drive that comes from the things that they do are inherent from like any goals that they set, which really is important because we've seen many issues these days with students being kind of apathetic. And so it's really exciting for me to be able to help students kind of reach their own goals and show them new possibilities.
For those that don't know, TSA stands for Technology Student Association. There's about 32 different competitions that students can choose from at the middle school level, and then an additional 30-some at the high school level. And it's everything from coding and video game design to fashion design, children's books, science teacher, future science teacher, biotechnology. It's all kinds of different events, and it really is student driven as far as choosing what they're interested in and then solving the challenge of whatever the event is and then going to compete at state. Everything works towards going to state where they get to compete against other students and also go to workshops for leadership and college and career fairs and so forth.
Yeah, the college and career part of the conference is really valuable because students are able to see opportunities that they might not normally see. For many of them, when we went last year, it was eye-opening because there were things that students were really passionate about that they didn't realize they could channel into a career. And so being able to have that sort of exposure has been really helpful, and these field trips are invaluable for getting students excited about not just what they're doing at school, but beyond, like post-secondary plans.
They connect to our CTE courses at the middle school. And so they're the CTSO or the student league for the CTE at the middle school level and high school level also.
Bella, do you have any questions, comments?
No, I think it's good. Host is a CTSO too, so I talk to the state officers for them a lot, especially about high school.
Yeah.
So I've been talking to the high schools about doing that at our high school.
That's great.
Marianne?
No.
Isaac? Mike?
No.
Michael?
Sounds exciting, I'm jealous.
Can I get a motion to approve SMS TSA Conference Overnight Travel?
Motion to approve SMS TSA concentrated overnight travel.
So moved. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? All right, you guys are good to go. Thank you. And business item number 2, approval of high school football away uniforms. And you guys are welcome to leave since your part is done. If you don't have to stay, we won't make you feel guilty.
Well, I was just gonna separate out. my stuff. So it's just.
You know when it comes.
There you go.
That's a perfect idea.
Feels like I'm getting ready for a game. All right. Good evening, directors and Superintendent Chaplik. Thank you for allowing me and us to be here tonight. My name is Rick Rudd. I'm a social studies teacher and head football coach. I've been teaching and coaching in this district since 1996. I'm here to ask for your financial support for new away uniforms for the football program. The ASB has denied our request and our current set is entering into its 8th season, and there are not enough uniforms to correctly and safely outfit our team. Both of our major uniform suppliers recommend no more than 5 seasons for a uniform. In addition to the uniforms, I want to discuss a longstanding issue, the lack of a policy to clearly designate whose responsibility it is to adequately and fairly fund Sultan School District athletic programs consistently and timely to meet safety requirements and maintain competitiveness. Our current system is based on trying to determine what equipment is safety related, covered by the district, and what is not, covered by ASB or the individual program fundraising. This system is arbitrary, inconsistent, and inadequate. Our current system is like asking Santa and his elves to help you, and you hope they're not in a bad mood and put you on a naughty list. Since taking over as head coach in 2019, the football program has raised thousands and thousands of dollars, which we have reinvested not only into the football program, but many others at Sultan High School. Unfortunately, this money has disappeared to costs for required uniforms and required equipment being deducted from our account. Requiring individual programs to fund for their own uniform purchases is unequitable and unfair. What I believe is missing and needs correcting includes, but not limited to, program uniforms are provided by the district on a clear, published schedule that is written board policy. Beginning annual budgets for programs to cover consumables like mouthpieces, socks, helmet decals, you name it. Clear guidelines on fundraising and management of funds during coaching changes so funds do not disappear from those programs' accounts when a coaching change happens. Clear policy outlining what the district and the ASB's responsibility is to cover financial needs for safety program existence and competitiveness. A policy allowing coaches to access ASB funds during breaks or off-season, potentially saving the district 20 to 30% on purchases. In closing, we need a thoughtful approach to distinguish between wants and needs in our athletic programs. We must ensure that our football team with 60 players and a single helmet costing $700, and our cross-country team with just 8 players needing just a uniform are adequately supported in a timely and consistent manner. Thank you for your time. I'm happy to answer any questions you have, such as distinguishing what is a safety item so far in our knowledge and what is not a safety item, if that's something you would be interested in. Because I don't know your background on like what it takes to outfit a football player.
Why don't you tell us?
Okay,
Start at the top.
as of right now, okay, the district is very gracious on helmets, reconditioning helmets, This is considered a safety item, okay? A helmet, we do not buy anything, by the way, that would be considered top of the line, name brand, or anything else like that. You're very limited on the type of equipment you can get. We do not wear Nike, we do not wear Adidas or anything like that. We do not buy Lululemon uniforms. Our uniforms are usually knockoff uniforms, and so is all of our equipment. You can't do that with a helmet. A helmet's gonna be between $600 and $800, and that just continues to rise. You can imagine the liability involved in a football helmet, okay? What a lot of people don't know is every single year, every helmet has to be reconditioned, regardless if it was worn or not. Therefore, all the decals that you see on the helmet that designate our helmet as our high school, those are stripped every year, and they're consumable. That helmet, just these STs and this stripe, is around $500 per season, okay? Safety, not that, not the decals, okay? Not safety, but required for football. Not safety, but required for football. Not safety, but required for football. Not safety, but required for practice in football. By the way, the football team in our own fundraising purchased this entire set of practice uniforms when I took over the program. I don't remember how much it cost, it was too many years ago. Okay, that's just an example of some of the things that we purchased. Uniforms. Thanks, Coach. Okay, so our away uniforms, Abby, okay, our away uniforms were purchased before I got here, and I think it was 2017. This was part of a contract deal that was set up by Scott Sifferman, so that we would be a brand store, okay, or a brand school, so that's why these are Adidas. You got kickbacks, it was a program, I wasn't a part of it. So a uniform, not only does the varsity wear these uniforms, but the junior varsity wears these uniforms. So if we have 5 away games, okay, then the JV also has 4 or 5 away games. And so this uniform gets worn probably 10 times in a year, okay, on average, not just 3 or 5 or whatever. So these are from 2017, okay, that's when these were ordered. We do not have a complete set. There were only 50 ordered, okay? And due to injuries, anytime a player gets injured, these get cut off their body. And so you can't replace those. It's not like I can go and if Isabel has, I don't know, something that she's wearing that I can buy the exact same thing 2 years later. You can't do that with uniforms, okay? It's pretty much kind of a one of a kind. You might have a 2-year window to replace something that was missing. If it was cut off a player, if it was lost or whatever. But we have 46 total jerseys. And so last year, in all our away games, we were taking uniforms from 12 years ago and trying to match them to these. And you know, a district is, and something that's changed in education is we're a lot more about social and emotional standing of a student and a player. I don't know if you guys were ever the kid when you were in athletics and you had to be in the uniform that didn't match anybody's, okay? And as a coach trying to tell a kid, yeah, you gotta wear a jersey that's 12 years old and you're gonna stand on the sideline as a freshman. Not a lot of motivation. You know, that kid might not want to come back, which hurts me as a person who's trying to change the culture here. So we just don't have enough sets. Here's another thing. You can have 50 jerseys, but the numbers are required for certain positions. Okay, Mike, I know you know this. Okay, so for instance, only skill players can have a number that is between 50 and 79. Only linemen. Anybody else outside of that is skill. Okay, so you're limited on the number of total people based on the numbers that you have. Okay, and prior to me coming here, there was no matching of Dax. No matching of the numbers. So 33 may not exist in that blue Adidas. So we have problems matching the numbers across. Trust me, since I came on board, the organization is much, much better. So all of our numbers match, as will, if you approve the away uniforms, the new blue or the new white jerseys will match exactly to Coop. Those are our home uniforms. So all the numbers will match, all the sizes will match, so that you don't get 33 in a medium in white, but 33 in your blue home is an extra, extra large. Okay, that's the other thing that's crossed. There was no correlation between whites, sizes and numbers, and blues, sizes and numbers. And we just don't plain have enough, period. So, I think that's all I needed to tell you on that. Okay, questions?
Well, three of us had met, cause we do an agenda review the week before. And some of the things and all that, everyone's asked their own questions also, but a couple of things that we were wondering about, have you guys worked with the new athletic director on this at all yet?
In regards to, like, talking to him about it, or
Yeah,
what are you looking for?
the needs and what you need and the wants and what the schedule, if there was a schedule before, how that schedule might be changed, if you want
Yes.
things to not be
The
same.
schedule was unknown. That's the best I can give you. There was a schedule, COVID screwed it up. Scott left, Chris took over. That's as far as I can get you. Now, we think this was the schedule from years before. Again, no written policy. Something that needs to change. And so we have proposed schedules, we have what we think we had, but nothing that I would say that has been shared with me that has been concrete. Of course, Chris is in the loop of all of this, but I don't involve Chris to put in a PO request, because I'm the program director for football and it's not how we do it, so.
Okay,
But if we're going to get in on a deep depreciation schedule like you're asking for all sports, Chris will need to be involved.
100%.
Absolutely.
100%.
cause one of the we want our kids obviously to be safe. We want you guys to have all the safety needs and the uniforms, all of that. We need to make sure that it is equitable between all programs. And so to say that, yes, here's $11,000 right now, some of us are not comfortable with doing that at this point until we know that there's a plan and we get on a depreciation schedule and we know when these are gonna be and all programs are funded equitably. Michael, let's just go down and have everybody.
Yeah, I'm, the pads, those look awful new. Are they fairly new? I didn't see them
The
as a
shoulder
part of
pads?
it. Yeah, so, I'm sorry.
Yeah, the
Shoulder
shoulder
pads were not
pad,
included in
here's
this.
another thing, the helmets have to be reconditioned every year.
Right,
The National Football Association, High School Association has also changed their rules that now shoulder pads are supposed to be reconditioned every other year. And so Coach Murphy and I went through our inventory and we had to get rid of pads that were before the year 2000. And there were probably 18, because that's how many Dan graciously allowed for us to replace. And we threw away all the ones that were beyond, they're not even safe. You can't get parts for them anymore, they're not. You bought them for Jimmy.
Was that just the last 2 years that the shoulder pad
Yes.
change came in?
Yeah, it's actually this last fall that we were notified by that.
if I may, these shoulder pads, although they look slick and they're really nice, these are not the top of the line shoulder pads. You won't see this pair of pads
on a college athlete or in the NFL. Coach Rudd is a good steward of the funds given, and we make sure first safety, and then our second concern is price. And again, these look slick, and they've done a great job marketing them, but these are not the top of the line shoulder pads. Rydell and company Douglas shoulder pads are the ones you see on Saturdays and Sundays with the NFL guys, that those shoulder pads can cost just as much as the helmets, up to $1,000 a pair. I'm not sure, well, these were
$260.
$260 a pair. So we
yeah.
do take the stewardship of the funds given very seriously. And for as long as I've been here, which was just a couple years after him, we do our due diligence in making sure our kids are safe and that the funds provided are spent well.
And I always work the best deal so that we get free sets. So in the past, if it's a safety issue like the helmet, I would talk to Dan. And Dan, we had 8 helmets rejected because it didn't pass recertification. And we're supposed to, the schedule that we should be on is 8 new helmets every single year, just to keep, otherwise you'll end up 1 year having to purchase 30 helmets. So it's kind of rotating them. And so trying to stay with that, plus replacing the ones that get ripped out. Dan and I would always work together, and I'd tell Dan, okay, Dan, we could buy 10. If we buy 10, we get 2 free ones. Okay, something along those lines. And so we always try to maximize the dollar.
That's just great, that makes a lot of sense. So the pads are on this rebuild schedule, but that's not coming out of safety equipment right now.
Right now, the only purchase that we make out of safety is a helmet
The helmet,
and the
okay.
recondition. But everything else is required to wear.
Yeah, no,
And
a lot of us on the board, I think,
a shoulder
You
pad
played-
is a safety
you
equipment.
played football for a bit, didn't you, Isaac?
Not very long.
Not
It's
very
too
long?
skinny.
Yeah, I mean.
Long
I think
enough
all
to
of
know
us
that if you didn't play with shoulder pads,
Yeah.
it might have been different.
played.
These guys think I played with a leather helmet, so that's.
Well, we definitely need to reevaluate what is safety and what is not. And we definitely need to have policies that address what we pay for and what needs to be fundraised, and policies that make it equitable for all the groups. So that's a no-brainer for
Yes.
me. So, Michael, did you have more?
Yeah, I
Sorry.
did. So you guys, you said you guys raised thousands of dollars.
Yes.
When was the last fundraiser? I don't recall.
Last year we fundraised $3,485. We brought in $3,427 with ASB fees and things like that. I know that's not fundraising. And then our gate income was $10,821 for a total in 2023, but it's pretty much the same each year, $17,733.
So I'm sorry, the fundraising that the football team did was 3,000 something.
3,000, yes, but I figured if the band can call gate when they have their play, they get that as a fundraiser. I was figuring I'm gonna throw the money in too.
Throw the money in from
So the
ticket.
people that
ticket
attend the
fees.
game, money
Gotcha.
should go to the
Okay.
football
Just
program.
trying to-
Well, that's how band does it.
Okay.
Or that's how, I'm sorry, the play does it or the musical does it. They count the door as a fundraiser for them.
So the 3,000 you just mentioned, you're counting as ticket sales?
No,
that's-
fundraise, we just fundraise.
Okay.
By itself, almost $3,500 just in 1 year. Prior to that, it was more, okay? But here's part of my problem, and this is why we don't have money in our account. Uniforms are deducted from your account and from all your fundraising. And there isn't any equalization in the sense of, okay, those were uniforms. And we really know that you had, let's say, $8,000 in that account. But because your uniforms were $13,000, you're now $5,000 in the hole. We're not going to approve anything. Thus, this year's uniforms.
Gotcha.
Do you follow me on that? Okay, that's why I mean, uniforms should not be the purpose. I should not have to have these guys go fundraise for something they're required to have a program. That's my stance,
Understand your stance?
Okay.
Thank you.
yeah.
Mike?
My concern is safety first. I want you guys all to look sharp. You know, you're representing our district, our high school, so when you go somewhere, it shouldn't be mismatch at all.
I can't help what they look like though, Mike.
Well, underneath the helmet you can, but outside, I think you can.
Thank you.
The one thing I wanna make sure it is equitable between all sports. So if we're gonna do it for football, we need to do it for everybody.
100%.
So that's where I wanna get Chris involved, get the AD involved. And we need to go through and look at depreciation for, like you said, cross-country, football, girls' basketball, whatever it may be. So we need to put that plan together and bring it to the board so we can then make a decision and put those dollars into the budget. Or, like you said, gate fees. If we're gonna take gate fees, it's gonna be donated to certain programs or whatever it may be. So we can begin to look at that, because what I wanna do is not have surprises. You know, as a board, we wanna make sure that we can have plans to say, okay, we know that we're budgeting $20,000 next year to replace uniforms for football and girls' basketball.
Correct.
We know that.
100%, yeah.
As far as all the other safety equipment and needed equipment, that should be, my belief is, it should be funded. That shouldn't be fundraisers or anything, that's to outfit an individual, whether, again, you know, in basketball or football, we need to make sure that we're looking at some of those consumables or
Right.
things that need to be maintained. So, what I'd like to see is a push, get Chris involved and come back and see what the plan would be. That is my recommendation. Not saying that we wouldn't, you know, I'm for making sure that we have the right equipment and uniforms for all of our sports. But I wanna make sure that we can look at it as a whole and say, this is next year's budget. This is what we're gonna put forward, and this is what is needed, so we can just do it at one time and get it done.
I just have a question about your timeline here. We're at the end of March.
Okay, so part of,
Theoretically,
and Gigi, I know, here's the other thing, and I always try to save the district as much money as I can. If you wait, you end up spending 30% more.
What's the deadline on that?
I would have to look and see what the deadline is for it on this year's uniforms. You usually have about a 2-month maybe window, and sometimes they can move that a little bit. But like I got for decals for the helmets today. If I ordered them today, I'd save the district 30%. Okay? And that's what I'm trying to get at is there are so many things that if we get ahead on the schedule, you can save the district thousands of dollars, but that has not been the practice.
We've had, well, I would say working with Scott, we've had these exact discussions. Now, not saying that football was not part of that, but they said, look, we've got this window to buy these in, you're gonna get this deduction, you wait and go outside. So I personally have been involved in those discussions.
And I think we understand that, but we have groups that fundraise for their own uniforms. Not that they should or shouldn't, but that do. And then, so trying to make it fair for everybody. And we wanna do that, but we also want to have you guys in great uniforms and
Sure.
safety equipment. So is us discussing this at our next meeting, is that gonna mess things up as far as discounts and all that? If we
I don't
can
know the
kind of-
answer to that right now, but I will find out. Yeah.
The Grizzly one, I'm sorry to interrupt you, Rick, what's that one? Is that from Glacier
This
Peak?
is, so, I forget which board member was asking about Rush. There was something, in a question that a board member had about, is Rush mean that we have to purchase them on a Rush order?
Oh, right.
Oh, yeah, that was
Okay,
me.
so Rush is just the style, okay? And so this, yeah, we're not red, obviously, okay? But this would be the style of the uniform, okay? And it would, no names, okay? No big emblems, nothing like that. We would have an ST right here, and that's it. And they would be white and blue and Columbia. That's it. We never, ever, ever go for what, I don't know, what you see everywhere else. We are not Oregon Ducks, okay? What we do pride ourselves on though, is we have been, as Coach was saying, good stewards of our property, your property. And so we are able to take multiple bottoms and tops and stuff, and we create uniforms. And the kids really like that, you know? It's hard when you only have 30 pairs of something, however. And so that's something else that we're building. But the challenge, Gigi, I'm sorry, Mike.
Go ahead.
The challenge, Gigi, is fundraising for 8 nylon shorts and tank tops for uniforms is much different when you're fundraising for 65 of these that are $190 for a shirt and pants. You know, that's so much different. And I know equitable, I understand equitable, but equitable doesn't mean 50-50 all the time, okay? And so that's the hard part that we need to figure out, okay?
Well, let's get down the line here before we ask any more questions from those of us that have already asked. Isaac?
I'm actually, thank you for your presentation, because I actually think the pads underneath and all this other things you showed is something we need to have a policy and have this set up. I mean, I think we're all like, this is the first time getting a visual going, yeah, this is crazy, you don't have much better gear or proper amount of it. The jerseys and everything, I think we need a little time so we can put a game plan together.
That's
for
fine.
you.
That's fine.
Because
And I'll
that's huge.
And we're not,
No.
yeah.
We want you guys to look good,
Yeah.
and that's huge.
Okay.
We want,
I
the
get it.
change that's happening in this community is huge. It's moving very quick. How our kids look is also part of what's important. I mean, that's a lot of, like, their mental state. They wanna go out there feeling good and looking good, and that's, I'm on board, but right, we also are dealing with lack of money. And so we're working with that, but if we can get some time to come up with some kind of game plan with you.
Yeah, I'll get you that information, no
Right.
problem.
Cool.
Marianne?
Yes, can I ask you to reiterate what game ticket sales were for your last season?
I don't have for 2024, I have for 2023.
What
And-
was 2023?
2023 was $10,821.
And right now, where does that money go?
It gets divided up amongst all the other programs,
Into general athletics.
Into general or ASB?
ASB,
In general athletics.
athletics,
Yeah.
Okay, and so a boys soccer game, ticket sales,
there are none.
they don't set.
They do not. Not all sports have a fee to watch the game.
Interesting.
So,
Basketball, football,
They're
typically at this,
yeah, they're non-revenue.
it's a big
So-
problem at the college level as
And
well.
then
Yeah,
it comes
so-
with cheerleaders also, the bands and.
Wrestling tournaments you have to be.
Wrestling tournament,
Yeah.
yeah.
But
there you
not
go.
their duels.
Okay, and so for a single student, a single athlete, let me rephrase that, head to toe, what is your cost? Typically,
My cost or the district's
the
cost?
district's cost per season.
Oh, wait, okay, wait a minute.
I think
That's
she's
a
saying like,
different-
what is the total cost, no matter who pays for it?
Head to
what's the
toe,
cost?
To
yes.
outfit each kid,
Equipment, uniform,
Everything.
the whole thing.
Yeah,
I mean,
you don't need to
I
have it
just
known
want
now.
a general ballpark.
to do that, we'd have to have our
You're probably-
depreciation schedule. wouldn't we?
For a football player, you're probably looking above $1,200
Yeah,
to $1,300.
sometimes pushing
So we
$2
need
grand.
that schedule.
And
Years ago, Rick, we started to talk about depreciation, track hurdles. Those are things that should be on a depreciation schedule, and we put them on there to make sure that we were depreciating and replacing in a certain timely manner. Pole vault mats, so these are the things that we need to make sure that we put on there and get,
Our field turf.
Yeah.
we just need to make sure that we're replacing in a timely manner. I think shoulder pads, thigh pads,
Right.
girdles, all those things also need
Yeah.
to fall into that same category.
Right.
And so we just need to put that on there. That's what I'm saying, we need to work with Chris and get that whole,
Yeah.
that whole thing, the whole picture.
Yeah.
The other part about
Policy
it,
that
and I'm gonna ask, this group, all of us here, Dan, the first time I was on the board, we were talking about corporate sponsorships. We have a big player like Romac that sits in our valley.
Mhm.
Can they donate? If we put a great big sign or put the scoreboard up there and says Romac Industries or whatever, will they annually donate to our program? So it would help offset some of the costs of our sports programs as well. So these are things I think we also need to get creative on.
Turk Pride TV already does that for advertising.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So what can we do creatively to begin to also, as a district fundraiser, help support all of our sports?
And that's why we were saying, like, just to decide tonight, there's so much that needs to go into this, but we can be quick
Yeah.
if we have all the information
Mhm.
that
We should get with Chris
yeah.
It's expensive. Football's clearly got the most kids involved and the most cost. I mean, just for a helmet.
Yeah.
$600-700.
Bella?
I had one more
You done?
question, Madam Chair. Are we still on for a budget workshop on Thursday?
Yes.
Is this a conversation that can continue in a segment of Thursday's discussions for next school year's budget?
We can.
Thank you, that would be appropriate.
Bella?
Yeah, and I agree with everything they said, but not to be like a broken record, but fundraising is important. And if you guys ever need like help with that, like always ask us, cause like for instance, like HOSA, we partnered with Mike's Sky Valley Cornhole and we raised $10,000 in one day. Volleyball, we did concessions for one night at homecoming, $600. That's how we got our new jerseys. So we have 4 new jerseys now, or 4 like jerseys. It's just by fundraising. And I know it's a lot different for football, cause you know, you said 2,000 for the whole thing. Volleyball is like what, like 60 per player.
Yeah.
But until the system is made, like come to like ASB or come to us with fundraising. 'Cause
We,
we're very creative with that.
we fundraised a lot of money. And the amount that I just said for 2023, gotta remember I started in 2019. And I'll tell you that Michelle, my wife, is the one that's in charge of fundraising. And she hasn't, 2023 and 2024, she really didn't do anything, and we still brought in $3,500. So when she was going full speed, we had at times $10,000 to $11,000 that we had. But again, as soon as uniforms that I didn't purchase get deducted from that amount, all of a sudden I don't have any money. Okay, different with volleyball, okay? Because, you know, your jersey's a little bit different.
$60.
Yeah, right. But I understand. Fundraising's important, okay? And we fundraise a lot. Most of the time, all the money goes right back into these guys. You should see all the equipment we have that are related to safety, tackling, repairing dummies, repairing equipment, repairing uniforms, repairing all kinds of stuff that had been neglected for years and years. We spent thousands, which I can get you that information too if you want, on the equipment that we purchased for the program, you know?
I think we're all on the same page.
Okay.
I think that we'll have, you know, I'll gather our list of what we wanna know, what we need, get that to Dan, get it to Chris, and then the faster you guys can get that
If
info.
you can find the dates
to
for
us.
just.
Sure, I'll call Joey, yeah.
Just
the BSN
email
guy.
me and if you need me to make a phone call, I'll try to help.
I can get him.
And we'll get a policy,
Uh-huh.
we'll get a schedule, and we'll get it all taken care of so that we don't have to do this again.
Perfect, that's
Sound good?
awesome.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you guys, thank you all for coming, appreciate
Thank you,
it.
guys.
Appreciate it.
For the record, just one thing, he has really helped over the years. Dan has behind the scenes, because he's a football guy as well. He understands, and everywhere he could help, he did help, you know? So I just want that to be known.
Thank you.
So thank you guys.
Bye, guys.
Thank you.
There goes our audience.
I'm gonna step out for a reference.
My check's out there.
What's next?
Mike Marin is gonna be next, sorry.
We should walk over to Romac and see if they'll throw down some money.
So I think we were actually working with them at that time, and I thought Ed was working with them, wasn't he?
He never really continued, he never
That's
really.
what I
He was going
remember.
to.
Anybody know anybody there?
Because
I
when I
don't
talked to
know.
Romac, they said, yes, all we have to do is fill out a form and bring it to them, and they
I'll
would
go
be
for
more
that.
than annually.
No
We have a
problem
bunch
walking in.
of businesses
All right,
that
Mike
sponsor
Marin,
athletes,
teaching
too.
and learning update, thank you for waiting, sorry about that.
Not a problem. So I'm going to share, I've told you probably since January that we're doing all this testing. I want to let you know kind of some numbers because it's very interesting. So in multilingual tests, the WIDA is the test that we use. We tested and the boxes are sealed and ready to go by UPS tomorrow. So 299 kids, which means that some of the kids that have come in recently, they don't have to take the test the first year. So there is a way that they can opt out. It's not actually, we don't actually test them, so because it's that's the law in the state of Washington. So 299, and including those that I think we had 6 that took the alt access, which is for the ones that are have cognitive, lower cognitive functioning, that's the alt access, so it's, so those are included. The other part of that is the high cap, so we're dealing with all the populations. We had 100 students referred this year, and so that is pretty much normal where we are, maybe a little lower. And we also do a pre-screen test with all third graders. And then in the fall, we actually did a first grade screener, which is nonverbal. And so that's called the Naglieri test. And so we have all of those that come forward, and we do our post screeners with the 30 or so post screeners with the third grade. And then we did the all referrals are tested. So, and we'll have our selection committee next week. So we're trying to move forward on that. So my last thing today is for Solution Tree, the PLC project, year 3 has been paid. And I took grant money and did that. So
Awesome.
continue our,
Thank you very much.
yes, absolutely.
Thank you,
Any
Mike.
questions for Mike?
No, sorry.
You're running off. Thank you. Dr. Paul Douglas.
Good evening, directors. I'll be quick. Just a couple updates really quick for you. I'll save the first item till last. The Care Solace you saw on the consent agenda, just approving that. That was passed, I think, last month, right? So we do have a contract and just need your approval and we'll move forward. I will tell you that counselors and some of the administrators are very anxious to get that program started. So we'll be working with getting it up on the webpage and the next steps starting tomorrow.
Nice.
So I want to give you an update on the counseling. Right now I'm working with the counseling department, the counselors, to put together a comprehensive counseling plan. It's required by the state to update on a regular basis. Last time we updated, was in 2023, so we're giving an updated one. So we intend to present it to the board in the May business session. The health services, just a couple dates to throw out. The nurses have been working in partnership with the county and a couple of other agencies. And we will have immunizations on May 16th at Sultan Middle School, mainly to address the immunizations that are due when they transition from 5th grade to 6th grade. And on Sunday, August 17th, there'll be immunizations again available. That'll be out Mountain View Church. That's where it has been in the last couple of years, so.
What day was the one at SMS?
Yeah, SMS is the one on the 16th of
16th.
May 16th. So that'll give families an opportunity to access immunizations without having to drive to Monroe or so on. For special education, safety net was submitted last week, yay. It's $1,085,000 is what we submitted for reimbursement. Think of that was for 13 students. If you times 13 times 42,000, which is threshold, what was pulled off right off the top, it kind of gives you an idea how much we don't get back that the state takes. So, but we did submit for that amount and hopefully get that back in reimbursement. The SEAC committee, which is a special education advisory committee, would meet tomorrow. We've been meeting monthly since December. One of the things that group is looking at specifically is how to address the number of behavior issues that we're seeing in our school, both from students with special needs as well as other students. Specifically, the program that the committee is leaning towards is a program that is functions as emotional behavioral disturbances, the area that they're focusing on. We have a number of our students, as you're all aware, that fit that category and have those needs that currently attend schools outside of our school district and non-public agencies. So they will plan to present a proposal to the board in the next, I'm hoping for them to be on the board agenda for May as well, May business. So they can, at least the proposal to the board on what that might look like. So I think that covers all my special updates. Any question?
I have a question. Your SEAC, are there parents on that?
Yes,
or-
there is.
Okay.
Yep.
I think that's something that should be, I don't wanna say advertised, but shouted out more, like because that's an area that there's been concerns in the past, and I think that you having this committee to, discuss the issues and everything and look for solutions is great, and I think more people need to know about it.
And we started that committee in November with a large group turnout, went out to all parents that would be interested, and staff. And from that group, we have a steering committee that's been meeting. We'll be bringing back the ideas that came out of the steering committee back to that large group. But I encourage parents that are interested to certainly reach out. Any board members that are interested, reach out.
Yeah, maybe in
Meet at
some of
5.
Dan's updates,
So.
put that out there, so.
Set it up this week.
Anyone else have questions or anything for Paul? All right, thank you, appreciate it.
Thank you, Paul.
Dan Bowler, financial report, please.
Evening, Directors.
My, hello, financial report, I tried to change the colors this time to make it a little more readable, I apologize, last month the color scheme was a bit much. Enrollment for March, we are currently, for our annual average variance to budget, we are I'm sorry, I gotta click, don't I, sorry, my bad. All right, next, go for it, next. Okay, for our, annual variance to budget in the yellow column on the far right, we're at a plus 61.55, and then when you figure in ALE, so overall, right at 60.01 above budget from March count. Our next slide, the traditional annual average FTE, we're at 2,029 for 24-25, so you can see it definitely has jumped up versus a year ago, where we're at 1936. Next one, traditional enrollment, actual to budgeted FTE. You can see that we hit our high water mark in January, and then it slid slightly in February, and it went down just a skosh in March as far as traditional. But then the offset in ALE, you saw that big jump in January to February, which corresponds with the decline in traditional, and then a small decline in between February and March. District-wide enrollment by head count. Again, most of the time you hear me talking about FTE, which again, full-time equivalency is what drives dollars. But head count is something we added about 6 months ago when we're looking at capacity issues as we continue to add students and space becomes a premium. So we're looking at head count overall, and it continues to grow significantly. Building enrollment, again, as we talked about, Sultan Elementary School is obviously the one that we're having the most challenges at. Reason that we've approved, and we're adding some additional portables to that campus for this upcoming year. And then looking at each individual building themselves, Gold Bar Elementary, the head count 358. Slight upward tick, but again, the years under review from 2010-11 where we started up till 24-25, only about 18. So it's been relatively flat over that 15-year period. Sultan Elementary School, on the other hand, much steeper slope. We're clear back at 509 back in 10 and 11, we're at 705, so you can see the linear estimation there is quite steep as far as the slope is concerned, continuing to grow, no reason to think that it won't continue. Sultan Middle School. Sultan Middle School is about where they were 15 years ago, on an uptick, but about where they were. Now they do have a large 5th grade class that will be matriculating to 6th grade next year. So they will see a bump next year, and we talked about that a little bit when we did the enrollment projections. Showed those to you last time, and we'll talk about those some more at the budget retreat.
40 more, just 5th to 6th.
Yeah. So I would, Sultan Middle School will tick up next year, continue to tick upward. And then the high school, essentially fairly flat, it's gone kind of roller coaster up and down and bounced around. But when you look at the 15 years, 634 back in 10-11 and 623 this year. So essentially fairly flat over the 15 years of review. The budget status reports, which I'm required by statute to provide to you each month. For general fund, for the month ended February 28th, 2025, $644,376. In February, we're through 50% of the year, halfway through the year, fiscal year. Our revenues were at 45.5%, our expenditures were at 48.5%. So you have a 3% differential between where you're at proportionately as far as expenditures versus revenues. And that is a change of an increase of 0.4% versus a year ago. So our expenditures are continuing to grow more rapidly than our revenues are growing month over month. Capital Projects Fund, Fund 20, again for February, $2,750,720. Fund 30 Debt Service Fund, $126,920. ASB Fund, Fund 40, $216,303. And Transportation Vehicle Fund 90, $125,372.84. A reminder coming up soon, there will be an additional transfer that will be necessary to move dollars when we take delivery of the next bus that we have coming. Board approved an additional purchase of a bus earlier this year, which is gonna be about $137,000 expenditure, so we've gotten that small bus, but now when the electric bus comes is when I'll need to do that $137,000 plus transfer from general fund to transportation vehicle. I have built that into the modeling, but that will be coming up here within the next 30 days.
Bus arrives next week.
Okay, yeah, so soon we'll be having to do that transfer. So there'll be dollars out of general fund coming into transportation vehicle. The budget monitoring report, salaries and benefits, the first one, very, very close. 0.1% below proportionate share at the 50% mark. 50% of the way through the year, we're at 49.9%. So very, very close. Material supplies and operating costs, the next one, we are at 50%. We're at 50% of the year, we are at 46.5% of expenditures, or 3.5%. Did make a note down here though, special education has requested, received 6 budget enhancements thus far in the 24-25 school year. The next page, and I apologize, there is an error. I was out of the office last week dealing with a family medical issue, and so I was doing these very late in the evening, so I apologize I missed. What this was intended to represent is, as we had said before, special education, we have had to, from what we call original budget to revised budget. So the one that the board approves is the original budget. As we make budget transfers and add capacity, it then becomes a revised budget, okay? So as we have moved $841,500 into an increased special education, what that gives you on the first slide gives you the impression that you're actually pretty close in alignment. However, if you take those additional dollars out and put the SPED back where it was in its original budget versus its revised budget, the difference becomes quite significant, is they're at 37.1% over. If we had their original budget at the 1.3 million as opposed to 2.1 million. That makes sense to everybody? Okay, so it's significant enough. What that would be, instead of negative 5.9, I apologize, what it did is that last bottom line there, when I copied and pasted that line, it didn't include the 21 line, the bottom line and the totals. If it did, it would be a plus 1.8%, not negative 5.9, but a plus 1.8%, okay? Not trying to pick on SPED at all, but it's just a significant enough item that I wanted to make everybody aware. And then when you look at all expenditures, salaries, benefits, material supplies, operating costs, we're 0.7% below. So 50% halfway through the year, 49.3% spent. Okay. The next one, I think it's the final slide. Yeah, final slide. This one I've changed a little bit, and I decided to kind of, first thing, we talked last time as far as the ratio in K3. We've done a lot of work as far as that is concerned in making sure we have everybody coded properly to the correct grade spans in the K3 realm. And we are now down to a demonstrated class size of 17.49. We were even lower than that. We had a few little 11th hour little blips that didn't, adjustments that did not make it under the deadline, but they will be included in the last calculation, which is in June. So I have brought the additional dollars in moving that compliance number from about 19.5 to 17.5 and extrapolated them across. The blue bars are for 24-25 estimates. The orange bars are where we were a year prior in 23-24, and the green bars are our high water mark. Okay, so the highest year, and those were all in 18-19. Okay, so it's quite a stark difference in some of those as far as we look at these, especially when we get to months like June, very low apportionment months where your cash reserves get very low. But you can see we rebound nicely at the end of the year. In August, it's actually above where it was a year ago, okay? So the challenge, as I've said many times, the challenge is just getting to July and August, okay? When you get to July and August, your apportionment percentages go up to 12.5% and 10%, so you get significantly more money in those months, but it just becomes a cash flow issue, So June is where, in June and July, or May, June and July, actually, for early part of July, we will utilize various cash management strategies. And then we assume, this makes an assumption, as Dr. Douglas just talked about, we have now put in there, previously had a placeholder of $750,000 for safety net, we've changed it to $1 million. His number was slightly above that, but we decided 1 million was a reasonable number that was plugged into August. So that is my report.
I have 2 questions.
Okay.
And I'm gonna ask them first before I forget. So on this,
Yes.
so in May, we have a decent amount of money in May, and then in June we don't.
Mhm.
Are there things you can pay in May, so you don't go down so low in June?
Those, and keep in mind, these are numbers that we anticipate at the end of the month, so May 31st, June 30th, et cetera. Yes, that's, Gigi, it's an excellent point, is that when your fund balance starts getting low, you need to also look not only at your month over month ending amounts, but your amounts within the month, because you have billing, you have payment cycles. Let's give an example. We pay once a month, so you receive your payment, your salary, paycheck at the end of the month. That money has to last you basically until the next 30 days. Well, during that time, you're making payments and so forth, so your balance is dwindling. It has its high water mark at the beginning of the month, then it dwindles till the end of the month, and then it's replenished again. So, yes, we will look at various timing. You have a couple of large ones that are in there. Your second payment for your Washington Schools Risk Management Pool insurance premium is in that time frame, and that's a big one. It's about almost $300,000 in one check that goes out during that period of time. So yes, we are managing that. We started it with the last batch. Ms. Miller and I sit down and we look at all the warrants, and then we send them out on an as-needed basis.
My second question, slide 12. So through February, we're 50% of the year.
Yes.
Revenues are at 45.5%. Can you explain the difference there?
Yeah, so
Understand.
actually on the budget status report, it actually gives you that number in the far right-hand side there. If you look at that slide and you say the percent, that's just a replication of what it says, 45.45, you see that number? So basically what it means is you make estimates for the year, and we just say arbitrarily, okay, we're 50% of the way through the year, are we 50% collected as far as the amount of revenues that we anticipated? The kicker is your taxes, okay? Taxes can cause some of that variation because you haven't had your spring collection yet. So if you're spreading those equally over every month, it can cause some distortions. So this number will become more meaningful once we get through the spring collection. Once we get to that spring collection, then you can truly see that's the only significant chunk of money that will come in a lump sum that could cause those numbers to equalize a little bit. But right now, it's behind where we would like to see it. We'd like to see them fairly close to even. What that means, it just puts downward pressure on your fund balance because you're spending more money than you're bringing in on a budgeted perspective. So it's putting downward pressure on your fund balance.
Bella, questions?
No.
Marianne? No. Mike?
No.
Michael?
No, ma'am.
All right.
Thank you, Director.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it. And we understand that you might need to leave, so we understand. Thank you. All right, so we are now approval of new SVO classes, correct? I think we've gotten caught up with everything else, so. Mr. Van Zant.
Yes, thank you, directors. Just looking to approve 2 new SVO classes. One would be taught, one might be taught fourth quarter, history of sports through film or society of through film. Just a lot of seniors have taken the basic world history, US history. With our small staff, a lot of them are going to be put in another history class for an elective. So trying to make something that's possibly more interesting than average US history. So.
Michael, do you wanna?
Yeah, two different classes on movies. I'm a little curious why you didn't consider maybe some books, or at least movies with books where you could do some of it in reading and get that literacy a little stronger than watching more screen time.
Yeah, so each class would have 4 units. It's with SVO, we look at about 45 days. And so finding a book at this time would be hard. So a lot of the class will be built around primary sources. So a lot of journal articles, a lot of history through sports, a lot of different blogs or past newspaper articles. So there'll be a lot of literacy, but the whole book, I just didn't feel that in a 45-day time frame with probably 15 seniors and a couple juniors, that we'd be able to make our way through enough material to make a book worth it. As I go forward and we look at to develop the classes, it's something that I'm looking to add, but again, the idea is 45 days and then giving the option to the seniors, so they'll be put in a history elective class and then it'll be like, okay, here's the 3 classes that we can do. Which one do you guys have the most interest in?
Yeah,
So.
I get you. I mean, I'm glad to hear there's more literacy in it, but I mean, there are 4 movies.
Yeah, right, so each one would be built around one movie. A movie is going to take about 2.5 class days, so it'd be about a quarter of the class time watching movies. And then again, if it's society through film, we'd be looking at the sociology standards and sociology ideas like deviance or just norms. And so we take, and a lot of the students haven't had sociology, so it'd be kind of a fun class. So it'd be studying what norms are and breaking them down, and then breaking it down, what are we seeing in the film with norms, so.
Seems like a lot of movies to me. I mean, 10 days of watching movies doesn't seem like a whole lot of educating. I appreciate it, thank you.
Mike?
No questions.
Isaac?
I'm right there with Michael. I get it's an elective, but it's very, that's a lot of movies. My senior year in '96, I had sci-fi. It was elective, I wasn't going to college, that was a filler for me. But ours was, I'm right there with him, is we we had to read the book, do a report, and then watch a movie with it. Now, I don't know how hard it would be to, like you said you have 45 days. I don't know, that's my concern also, is I know it's elective, but how relaxed is that? That's quite relaxed if it's 10 days of movies, but I don't know. I think I need to see a little more or come up with a different game plan for it, unfortunately. That's my feeling. I know it's a easy class for elective, but something, even like documentaries or something that's a little more knowledge than those movies is all I'm getting at. That's what I think.
Marianne?
I do have a question. Looking at new course form, Sky Valley option, History of Sports in America through Film 1 and 2. I noticed that you do have course requirement elective, state course code, type of credit, history or elective, but transcript designation is none. So nothing would be able to carry forward on their transcript for credit?
No, it'd be credited under an elective, so I'd have to look.
Okay, so that should be changed
Yes.
because that's what the registrar, and that would designate if it's transferable if they change schools. Because the way I'm reading this, no, it wouldn't be on their transcript. It would just be a class they could take.
Yeah, I'll have to look at the form, that's an oversight on my part.
Thank you.
Bella?
Yeah, this is just like a question, but will the time of the class change with the 4 class periods? Will it be longer than 45 minutes as well?
So for SVO for next year, we're looking at different models. So SVO is going to have to change somewhat to respond to what the high school's doing.
Yeah.
Right now, we're looking at different models on how to do that and how to make it meet the needs of the largely juniors and seniors within a different time frame. The staffing is going to be slightly different because of what the high school is going to be doing. And so it's going to just change the model of SVO some. And so we're trying to look at the best model to fit that, so.
Real quick, what is it, is there like 6, how many kids are in SVO?
We have head count of 42 and an FTE of about 36. We share some dual enrollment with the high school, and then we have a couple of Snow Isle, a couple Pathfinder students that we share FTE with.
And then are these classes for this year?
One of them would be for this year, again, trying to give options to seniors to have a choice, because they don't get a lot of choices, and I'm endorsed in social studies, so I can't be like, hey, we can do this or this, so trying to find something that would be intriguing for them. I understand the literacy piece and the concern about what they'd be doing, so.
Personally, I'm fine with these for this year, and then because I think that mentioning the next year is gonna be different. So we've got time to work on that for next year. That would be my,
If that's what the vote's gonna come down, it's just something to fill this year because this next year is so different, that's different. If this is gonna be a class that's gonna be permanent, that's where I was getting at with
Yeah.
like needing to be more
Yeah.
substance.
What's so different about next year that this is?
Cause we're doing the 4x4,
we're
everything
taking,
changes.
we're taking staff away, we
It's a
talked about
major
like
change for
redoing the
them.
whole
I
program.
understand that, but I mean, if we can find classes for next year, that would be, this seems like filler.
He needs something this year, so that kind of, I guess, is a filler for this
Yes.
year. So need something to offer this year.
Okay. That just seems horrible that we're offering classes that are just filler. I'd like to think that I mean, I see some educational value. I'm not about to say it is all filler.
Filler
I mean,
is
obviously,
filler.
there's a lot of you have them doing writing, critical thinking. I like the concept. I just don't love how much time that they're gonna spend in class watching TV.
And so-
Classes watching the screen too.
And so with an SVO class, they're in SVO for about half their actual education. And so we'd be using the movie in class, but about half their time is also, and then the way it has to be built is they take things home as well. And so might be able to find, it comes down to, can I find a book in 3 weeks before the class starts? Read it and get enough copies.
It's for history.
It would be for history. There's a lot of good things out
Fall
there.
of Giants would be too much for them.
It's a possibility. And then the way it would be built is a lot of the reading would be done on their time that they're supposed to be doing outside of class.
Well, let's see, do we have a motion to approve new SVO classes?
I make the motion to approve new SVO classes for this year. Can I put that specifically in the motion? For this year? Since next year is going to change.
And then we can discuss. So we have a motion to approve new SVO classes for this year. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? Abstain?
Yeah.
Yeah, abstain?
I'll abstain.
Okay. All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Abstain. Oh,
He abstained, he was yay. He was, yeah.
That was a weak yay.
Thank you. SHS ASB increase. Are you doing
Yeah,
that?
so this is a request to just increase the impressed amount, which is the amount that they can write daily checks for.
Well, I think this information came out
Yeah, we read
to
this.
everybody,
Yep.
yeah. So before you
Obviously,
go
things
any,
are costing more.
yeah. Does anyone have questions on this that weren't asked? Michael, Mike,
No.
Isaac, Marianne? Bella? Okay, so we're good with that. Can I get a motion to approve SHS ASB impressed increase request?
Motion to approve what she said, no. Motion to approve SHS ASB impressed increase request.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, there we go. GBE fence addition.
So this is the PTO up there is donating $11,000 towards this. You can see from the picture that it covers that inside area, to make a safer play area for kids that would benefit from being in more of a lopers, so to speak. Being in more of an enclosed area from some of those court classes that open to that side.
So our only contribution would be about 5,000.
Yes.
Did anyone have questions on this? Bella, Marianne, Isaac,
No?
Mike,
No.
Michael?
Nope.
I have none. Can I get a motion to approve GBE fence addition?
I motion to approve GB fence addition.
You picked the easy one to say.
Yes, I did.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, passes. Approval of Dr. Chris Granger superintendent contract. For the record, he wanted to be here tonight, but he is still employed with the Blaine School District and they have a meeting tonight as well. The contract is the one that we all decided on. He agreed to it, so I just need a motion to approve Dr. Chris Granger's superintendent contract.
I make a motion to approve Dr. Granger's employment contract.
Superintendent contract.
Superintendent employment contract.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, congratulations, Dr. Chris Granger. You are officially ours. Sorry.
Did he sign
I
those
know.
papers?
Once we approve, then he signs. So we have to be nice and for a little bit longer. And then to get him to sign. Second read of policy 4300. I don't know, Dan, this is the one last time we had some questions. Kayla put all the information in here. The policy is covered in 3 separate policies. I, for one, would like it in one. We asked for a change, Michael asked for the change about the immediate area. And
I think that was
was
actually
me.
Mike, I'll give
Okay.
full credit where it's
it
deserved.
was one of the mines.
One of the M's.
Yeah, there you
One
go.
of us.
And that was changed. Does anyone have comments or questions on the second read of policy 4300? Bella, Marianne, Isaac, Mike,
No.
Michael?
I still don't see the point in combining, and I believe it creates trouble. Future trouble.
This policy creates trouble?
Combining existing policies into a new policy creates
But it's not combining existing policies. We have these existing policies for other things. And the question was, or was brought up, if we have them covered in other policies, why do we need this other policy? But this policy 4300, it's a WASDA policy, and it covers one thing specifically.
Okay, I'll
And then the other
Yeah.
3,
I
like,
was under the impression that the other 3 still covered.
It does cover, everything that's in this policy is covered in other policies.
but it's
It's just,
piecemealed.
it's just
Madam Chair, can I
pontificated
say
on.
something? It was my interpretation that our existing policy applied to students. And that this policy broadens to be staff and parents.
No, it's also, the other ones also cover everybody.
This one covers community relations.
The other ones do too.
Let me go back now and look.
It just, this policy goes more in depth. It just has a lot more filler words. If you really read the policy, it just has more filler words. It really expands one part of each of the policies. It just really goes into a lot more details. But if you look at it, it's just very wordy.
And it's all, to me, it's all in one place instead of having to go to 3 different policies to try to get what we want in the one thing. So,
Right, but, you know, having a law that says you can't speed, having a law that says you have to wear your seatbelt, creating a new law that says you can't speed while wearing your seatbelt. Seems like a waste of time, not only that, but then if something changes in one of the other policies, well, you cannot wear your seatbelt if you're
but
going.
this is a total separate policy. It's a standalone policy.
But the policies are still called out in the other policies, where Michael's saying, so if you do make a change in 4300, you will have to go back and update the other policies as well. So if in this policy, the only part that you'll have to do is make sure it calls out the sections that also live in the other policies, because if you change it on one and you don't change them on the others, then you will have a conflict of interest on the other policies.
Kayla, can you remind us what the other policy was?
Yes, so the other policies are,
And I'm
so
looking,
the newsletter that Dan put out highlighted that policy 3210 student non-discrimination and policy 5010 are included, as well as 3226 interviews and interrogations of students on school premises.
Kayla, I'm gonna put you on the spot since you're the policy committee chair and the one that does all the policies. What are your thoughts?
I highlighted what other school districts have as far as this policy and it seems like the board do. And that it's a WASDA model policy and that's how we're trying to model our policies. And so while there might be changes to this, which might reflect on other policies, we'll be able to capture that through WASDA and their cumulative.
So it's no more work for us. It's just putting it on an agenda.
Continuing what we're doing.
But potentially it could put us at legal risk if we do not update all the policies.
Yeah, so when they release policy updates, they would kind of highlight what.
Yeah.
So it's the
I
same
mean,
thing as all the other policies.
And perfectly fine, I'm just saying we should call out somewhere on there, it also, this is covered in policies XYZ. So if we were to pull up the policies, even in 5310, it should say policies related to this would be 4300. Please see, you know,
At the end of the policies they do, so I can show you.
just like you do RCWs, you know, if you're referring to RCWs, you know, they list all the RCWs that you have to go back and potentially look at. We should probably just highlight what policies also will be impacted by this. If it's duplicated, because it is duplicated, it's almost word for word in some regards, but that just like I said, it just expands on certain paragraphs. So we should just go back and make sure it's highlighted on what other policies, like Michael was talking about, change the speed limit.
Because the WASDA model policies do have associated policies.
The numbers are on there.
Documents, so-
Yeah.
Just keep it.
Yeah, it's just for us to make sure if we do change, we could go back and review those policies to make sure they're updated there as well.
So do we have a motion to approve second read of policy 4300?
Well, I just real quick, I also think just having the same, in dealing with this situation that it covers, being in the same as the whole corridor of us, Monroe, Snohomish, all those people having the same policy altogether, kind of bonds us here, so if anything horrible like we're worried about happens, we're all on the same playing field. It's minor, but it's just something to think about, that's all.
Do we have a motion to approve second read of policy 4300?
I motion to approve the second read of policy 4300.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
Abstain.
Abstain?
Stand.
All right, motion passes. Second read of policy 1450. Dan, you wanna do that?
So let me get this open here, absence of a board member. So,
It's second read, I don't know. Does
yeah,
anybody have
so
questions?
Anybody
We'll
have any
just-
questions?
Yeah.
No.
Straightforward.
Anybody questions? No? Okay, can I get a motion to approve second read of policy 1450?
Motion to approve policy 1450.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Or abstain? Motion passes. First read of policy 1822. Did anyone have questions on this one? Michael?
Nope.
Mike?
No.
I had none. Isaac?
Nope.
Marianne? Bella? Can I get a motion to approve first read of policy 1822?
Motion to approve first read of policy 1822.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Policies for April are listed. Qualifications of attendance and placement and child custody. And superintendent's report.
Okay, so let's go to the first slide, if you can open that up. So first item, just to kind of follow up on what Bella said, student school director retreat occurred on March 7th. Kayla put a number of links in here that just gave you a little more information as to what took place at the event and what followed up. You know, Bella did a nice job of succinctly capturing the event, but I will tell you, just having spent the day there with them, you know, our student reps, Cameron and Bella, are doing great. They're representing the community and the school district in an extraordinary way. And I think that we can always have confidence that if they're doing something on our behalf, that we can have great confidence that they will do well. And so if you wanted to look at these various links, it just gives you a little bit more on what ESD 189 shared. their Facebook post, et cetera. Snohomish County Early Learning Coalition, I'm part of this now, and you know, what in defense of, I'll have Kayla pull up a slide here in a minute. The rural areas for early learning and daycare is just what they consider to be a desert. There's just not good opportunities around, you know. And so there's a website that you can go to, and it kind of talks about gives you the numbers of the kids that need help, those that are supplemented or paid for, those that need it don't get it. And I'll take you that slide in a minute, but the data from our district says that if you look at the kids that are, I think it was, can you go to that slide that I presented? It'll it's the second one on that. That one right there.
That's what I got earlier, wasn't here.
Well, I'm the guy that loaded that, so I'll take responsibility for it not working. I thought I was doing so well. Anyway, I've got it on my computer here, and what it does is you can click on a map by school district, and what it'll show you is the number of kids and or families that are getting their early childhood needs met. And in the Sultan School District, if you know, there's a couple of different boxes you can click. 5 to 12 years old, preschool, which is age 3 to 5, and that's the main one I clicked. If you click on the Sultan School District in the 3 to 5 age range, only 11.3% of kids and families are getting their needs met. When you add to that toddlers, which is 12 to 29 months, and infants, which is 0 to 11 months, the numbers continue to go down. In fairness, to show that we're not alone in this challenge, there's many rural areas that are all east, you know, East Snohomish County, East Skagit County, East King County, that experience some of the same stuff. It's just a big problem where, you know, and I think I would even venture to say that it's a bigger problem now because years ago, kids didn't have screens to occupy their time. And now I am afraid that that's mostly what's happening in some of the situations. And so the point of all this is, and I was on the phone with them today, and I want to talk to you more once I understand more. They want me to write a letter on behalf of this group to a couple of Congress people to support study of early learning in Snohomish County. But I don't want to do it without board support and approval because I'm going to be gone soon and Chris will be here but it is a big problem. You know, you think of the amount of learning that happens from birth to 5 years old. It's remarkable what takes place. And in all children's best interests, we want to make sure that they have access to childcare that is healthy, that families that are working can go work and their kids are cared for and different things. So there's a lot of stuff here that needs to be improved. It amazes me kind of that here we are in 2025 and we've got this massive challenge with quality daycare or even the number of daycares and early learning. So when I talk about early learning, it's just, you know, young kids that are birthed to a couple years old learning how to play appropriately, you know, learning how to interact rather than, not having those experiences. Because that's some of what early learning is about, is just being exposed to others in that age group where you struggle or develop that interaction with another child that's 1 to 2 years old if you're in that age group, and you learn from that. It is, you know, or just reading to your kids or all of the things that take place. It's a huge issue, and I'll stop there, and I apologize. I'm not sure what I did wrong unloading this, but it didn't.
Could you email it to us though?
I will. Yes, I will.
Keep that up, we'll have to let you go in a year or two.
Well, I might let myself go sooner than that.
All right, fair.
Or you've already let me go. so
We have.
There we are. You hired somebody.
He's just finding out.
Anything else?
Just fighting out.
So let's go back to so there's that, go next one. So just wanted to state some dates that are there. The first date that Chris will be here is the 27th, and I don't have firm plans there other than I'm gonna work with the board on exactly how this needs to work. Part of of Chris coming on the 27th, as he will be here next week for in a few days, for the budget retreat, so we can kind of see what the landscape consultant is like. I'll take him down to coffee, do different things. It's just a matter of getting people to have an opportunity to meet him, but I'm not gonna go any further than what the board and I, they direct me to do as far as how that learning works.
And then with that, the conference that Isaac and I are going to next week, there are 2 separate sessions on new superintendents starting and how to transition from the old to the new. And so if we can, hopefully we can come back from that with like a lot of good ideas on how to make the transition as seamless as possible.
Part of what I will do, and this is I'll say, here's some areas where I think I could have done a lot better, that I think, you probably get some good positive wins by making these things a priority. The board may not agree with that, but those are the things I think about sharing with them. I wish I would have done more of this, or I wish I would have done more of that. Because there's a lot, and you gotta pull the right stuff together and make sure that you're meeting the needs of the moment and the needs of the kids in the community.
Anything else?
That's it.
All right, and we have no executive session, correct? All right,
That is next week.
it is, yeah. You can't take the spot, you can't back out. All right, so do I have a motion to adjourn?
Make a motion to adjourn.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, so adjourned.
Does anyone have a piece of candy I can have? I'm having a very low blood sugar event and I
I do
dumped my
not.
purse before.
Not have, carry them with you?
I have a Hall's cough drop. Will that work?
I'm gonna go with this mint.